You're listening to the Time to Level Up podcast. I'm your host, business life coach Andrea Liebross. I help women in business commit to their own growth personally and professionally. Each week, I'll bring you strategies to help you think clearly, gain confidence, make your time productive, turn every obstacle into an opportunity, and finally overcome the overwhelm so that you can make money and manage life. Let's create a plan so you have a profitable business, successful career, and best of all, live with unapologetic ambition. Are you ready to drop the drama and figure out the how in order to reach your goals? You're in the right place. It's time to level up. Let's do this. Hello, my listeners, and welcome back to the podcast. So this week, I have something a little different for you, a fan favorite. So what's a fan favorite? Well, here's my explanation. When I'm coaching someone and they are wavering on whatever they're wavering on, I often refer them back to a previous podcast, which I call fan favorites. So today, here's what the fan favorite talks about. And I'm kind of repackaging it in a different way. So when we waver on why something isn't happening, I always encourage my clients to check in with how they feel. And 99% of the time, when I ask questions around how they feel, they soon realize that no wonder whatever it is, isn't happening. Because the feelings and emotions that are permeating their being are not feelings that trigger actions that lead to a successful result. So, over the past few weeks, this has come up several times in coaching. And over the past few weeks, I've also gone back and looked at previously recorded episodes to see which episodes were, in fact, the most listened to episodes. And what I've found is that the most listened to episodes, like I said, are the ones that really get back to the basics of how we have thoughts about our circumstances. The thoughts trigger feelings. Feelings trigger actions or inactions that ultimately create a result. That is the basic premise of a lot of my life coaching. And the very first episode I ever recorded shares this concept in story format, and it really does a great job of illustrating that it is really and truly our feelings and emotions that fuel our success or not. So I want you to sit back, buckle up, and listen in or re-listen to what was once episode 1, which is going to help you get a better understanding and refresh your memory on why feelings are the key to our success. How do we use our feelings to fuel our success? And I am going to give you in this episode a few stories, one of them about me. All right, so let's get to it. When I thought about what I wanted to do for this first podcast, I thought about what it really boils down to. What is the key to figuring it out? And if you know me at all, you know that I am a big believer in Brooke Castillo's self-coaching model. And we'll talk about that in lots of future podcasts. But the model, it's based on science and all the theories out there wrapped into one. Psychology, self-help, neuroscience, it brings it all together. So I turned to the model to figure out that key to reaching goals. But it is that model that showed me one thing that I think is essential when it comes to growing and reaching that next level. Now, what I'm about to say, you might think I am crazy when I tell you that this one essential thing is a feeling. Yes, it's a feeling. The feeling is the key. It is this feeling that's made me over $200,000 this year in my business, and we're only in October. And it is a feeling that keeps me becoming a better and better version of myself at home and to helping more and more women. It's a feeling. So, feelings are not discussed around most conference room tables, even sometimes not around most kitchen tables. And I've been around a lot of tables and brought up feelings and emotions and how they might be impacting what's going on in that particular business or that particular life. And I've gotten a lot of crazy looks. You know how you can look at someone and you know they're just thinking you are crazy? Well, feelings are not often thought of as important. And it's the actions that we focus on, the plan, the data, the process. But if I told you that it is a feeling that can get you to that next level, to moving forward, having traction, making money, and managing your life, what would you say? I'm going to guess you're in. So we have no evidence to the contrary that it's not a feeling, because our thoughts create our feelings and our feelings trigger actions and actions lead to the result or the goal. So our feelings ultimately create our result, whether that's money or getting to the gym 3 times a week. So I often like to share stories as a way to hone in on a concept. It helps us remember it too, right? So here is the story of changing one emotion, and that one emotion created me a multiple 6-figure business, and that one emotion did not create the same thing for others I know, or the lack of that one emotion did not create the same thing for others I know. The emotion or the feeling is committed. Committed. So this is a concept that you must be committed that became super clear to me when I was working for another organization. I worked for them for about 10 years before I started my own coaching business. And here is the scoop. Okay. My job involved recruiting and hiring and training new business owners for a women's clothing company that sold direct to customers in kind of like a showroom format. So it wasn't a party. And this company was called Worth, W-O-R-T-H. So I call this the what's it worth to you story. So in my role, I saw women who were saying yes to a business opportunity. And they were saying yes with enthusiasm and optimism, big dreams, and a healthy dose of anxiety. They believed that they could make 6 figures in this business, and many did. So up front, they committed to running what was somewhat like the franchise, but technically they were all independent contractors. And I recruited and hired them, and then I started to train them. Now, these women were all ages. Some were moms, some were grandmas, some only had a dog, some had 6 kids, some had another job, some were taking this on part-time. But here is what happened. When I started to really work with them, when I started to really train them and tell them what it took to be successful, the work became hard and uncomfortable, and they started having what I call little quits. Okay, do you have any little quits? Think about it. They didn't want to make the phone calls. They didn't want to invest in help or delegate, and they really didn't want to ask hard questions of themselves or others. What that really boiled down to was that they didn't want to commit to reaching their goal. And what led to this lack of commitment? Well, they were feeling guilty and believed that everything was falling apart at home as they grew this business, or they weren't spending enough time with their kids or their grandkids or their spouse, or taking their dog on enough walks. They started to believe this opportunity was not for them, that they just couldn't do it, that it was just too much. I say that sometimes, it's just too much. I bet you do too. So I studied this time and time again, like what was really happening? Why had they gone from being all in to being kind of in? And what I realized was that excited and optimistic are not what it takes to be successful and grow and reach the goal. Motivated, that's not it either. Smart? Nope. It takes commitment, day in and day out. Comfortable and uncomfortable, hard and easy. So the corporate people that ask me, why isn't this person profitable? We have all the data in the world that shows that she should be. We have an amazing product and we have great people in management. What is really happening, Andrea? So I gave them one of what I called, quote unquote, my great ideas. They usually didn't listen to my great ideas, by the way. But my idea is, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the projections, not about the incentives, the bonuses, or education. It's not even about the people themselves and whether or not they are smart or nice or fun or friendly. It really is about their commitment. So I went deeper and I thought about it even more. Why were they failing? Why were they feeling defeated? Why were all those little quits adding up? It came down to commitment. So here's the scoop. If we're not committed, no matter what we're trying to do, if we're trying to receive a promotion, starting or growing our own business, trying to get dinner on the table, or even folding and putting away all the laundry, if we are not committed to the success, we will fail. And what I learned through this, what it's worth to you story, I took into my coaching practice. I decided to make a business out of helping women in all sorts of businesses, their own business and those of others, to help them succeed and experience what that feels like and want to continue to succeed and to grow themselves, all while managing, remember, their day-to-day responsibilities in their personal life. And I decided to create a business where I can guide these women to move forward, take action, make money, and manage their life. I had to get really good at commitment if my own business and life was going to succeed. So as I began to form my own business, I thought back on the what's it worth to you story and realized that what I was trying to do with the worth women who were not successful and those who were successful was coach them to success. But the reason some felt it wasn't working was not based on anything I did or did not do, not based on the tools they were given. It really came down to just one feeling, committed. It just wasn't there. They were not committed. It was as simple as that. So since my own goal and mission is to help 100,000 women make money to support themselves, create traction in their own world, and manage life, I created my own business to live out that mission. And as a starting point, I got certified as a life coach, even though that's kind of what I had been doing for the last 10 years. And I invested in my own business coach. I created a website. I got professional photography taken. I made my business official in the eyes of Uncle Sam. But most importantly, what all of these actions added up to was commitment. I committed to myself. I had to be committed to me before anyone else could commit to working with me. And I put that 100,000 women number and the goal of a multiple six-figure income into the result line of Brooke Castillo's model. That was the result I want. And if you don't understand the model because you haven't been exposed to it, don't worry about it. This is the kind of learning we do through the podcast and I do with my own clients. So just stay with me on a really conceptual level. And remember that our thoughts create our feelings, which create our actions, which create our results. So when I started, I was in a place emotionally of doubt and confusion. Those were the words on the feelings line. And my thoughts that were leading to those feelings were something like, I don't know how, I don't know if a life coach can make that much money or impact that many lives. All of those thoughts were creating that feeling of doubt and confusion. And following the model, these feelings were not going to get me to do the things I needed to do to reach the goal, the actions. And in fact, really for the first few months, my business was not producing anything at all. And I did feel overwhelmed with all the other responsibilities in my life. And I kept telling myself that I just don't know how to do this. Now, remember, I had hired a business coach to help me and to help me take care of the how. And one of the things that my husband brought to my attention early on is that when I was working with the women at Worth, one of the things they did was question me and second guess me and argue with me about the how. They didn't believe me when it came to the coaching I was giving them. Their brain was always holding onto the doubt and not the commitment. All of those great ideas I had, corporate was not putting them into place. They were doubting me too. So my husband said to me, hey, if you go and work with this business coach you hired, you need to change your doubt to commitment. You need to feel committed to doing everything she tells you to do instead of second guessing from a place of doubt. And if you can commit, then I think you should go for it. You can do it. You will be successful. Okay, that was kind of a wake-up call that I wasn't committing to doing anything and everything that it took to get to this goal. So I got to work. I created a website. I got professional photography taken, and I did something that I had never done before. I got one of those zero interest credit cards with a $25,000 limit, and I used it without hesitation to put money into the business because I was committed to creating a profitable business and paying off the credit card in the first 6 months, which I did. And I had decided that I was committed to do everything this coach told me to do no matter what. My thought was, I'm 100% committed. I changed my feeling from doubt to committed. And the action I took was every single thing that coach told me to do. And the result, my friends, is a business making over $200K a year and me helping, at this point, thousands of women. So I saw the power of that one emotion, and I saw that different emotions give us different results. Now, some people will say to me, I want to do that, and I want to be comfortable doing it. I don't want to do anything out of my comfort zone. That is really kind of what the women of Worth were telling me. I don't want to do anything out of my comfort zone. Now, those two things, commitment and comfort, probably not going to go together. Because when you want to evolve past the place you already are, past the person that makes 3 times as much money as you do now, or gets the promotion, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, to put yourself out there in the world, to try new things and fail repeatedly in order to get the success you want. You have to be committed. Because I did fail in many of the things I did. I failed a lot, but it didn't matter because I was still committed to the end result and doing everything my coach advised me to do. Now, for some of you, you may not care about making money, but all I'm asking you to do, and the lesson I'm trying to teach you here, is to ask yourself the question, does the emotion that I'm feeling right now produce the result I want? If you are in fear and doubt, is that going to produce the result you want? Is that going to get you to the goal? If you're in apathy or confusion or anger or overwhelm, is that going to get you to the goal? So more important than a business plan, more important than the data, more important than understanding social media and marketing, more important than the review that your manager gave you last. All of these things that all of those people in those boardrooms tell you are the most important thing, I disagree. The most important thing to moving forward, making money, managing and enjoying your home life, your husband, your kids, the most important thing to creating any kind of result you want and reaching a goal is how you feel. You need to feel the emotion that will fuel the action to produce the result you want. Okay, you may be asking me, how do I make sure that I'm feeling the emotion that I need to be feeling? The answer, of course, comes from your brain and your thinking. Remember, the key to all of this is starting with your thoughts because your thoughts create your emotion. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, about Brooke's model and how this all works, about how to get the result you want, about exactly how to do this, I want to invite you to continue listening each week to this podcast as we explore this all more. All right. Now, at this point, I've taught these concepts to probably over 1,000 people. And watching their aha moments is priceless, because when they finally understand how everything in the world works together, how that book, The Secret, that law of attraction, doesn't just mean sitting there and thinking wonderful things. It means thinking in a way that makes you feel in a way that makes you do in a way what you need to do to create what you want. You can blow your own mind if you are willing to experience the feeling that you need to feel to get what you want. So maybe for you, maybe it's not commitment. Maybe it's determination. Maybe you're willing to be uncomfortable. Maybe you're willing to put yourself out there and be brave and courageous. I don't know what it is for you, but you can learn, and I can teach you how to create those thoughts that you need to consistently reach your goals. Okay, I want you to leave you with some helpful questions that you might actually want to write down, because this is easy to understand intellectually. It's way harder to apply. It's much harder to practice and do. That's why I coach people one-on-one, to help them to get good at this so they can find success. I teach them to take action, to make money, and to manage their life. So here's something that Coach Brenda Lamelli taught me. Think about one growth goal you have and write it down. Writing it down, people, that's another key. So this goal, it could be to make $100,000 in a new business. It could be to move from director to senior director in your organization. It could also be to exercise 3 times a week. They are all growth to that next level. That's all leveling up. So ask yourself why. Number 1 is, why do you want to do this? A 100% commitment is active. It's an active thing. It's not passive. It requires action. A 100% commitment requires that you continue to take the action until you achieve what you want to achieve. So, more questions to ask yourself. Am I committed to achieving the goal and taking action no matter how long it takes? Next question. Okay, so what did you think of that? Isn't it kind of fun? At least I find it funny to go back and listen to my very first episodes and how things have changed. I still love delivering these messages to you every week. I find it very empowering to be able to have the platform in which to share this amazing learning. I think everybody deserves to listen to this kind of thing. And most people say to me, why didn't I find this kind of growth earlier? Why didn't I expose myself to this kind of thing earlier on in my life? But you know what? There's no such thing as regrets. That's another episode, I think. We're here today, moving forward. So I really would love you to consider how you're feeling and how it's impacting everything you're doing or not doing, and if it is leading to your success or not. And I would encourage you to consider how you can get better at allowing feelings, acknowledging feelings, and recognizing how you are feeling, because too many of us don't do that at all. And that, I think, is a recipe for disaster. So if you are interested in learning how to do this better, DM me. Let's become friends. Let's connect on social media, or let's connect via a Zoom call. We got options, people. We got options. Tell me you've listened to this episode. I want to know. Tell me what you're thinking about, what I can give you through this podcast to create even more fan favorites and to help you live a better life and grow a more successful business. Okay, my friends, until next time, remember, there's always time in your day to level up your thinking to create the success you're looking for. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Time to Level Up podcast with me, your host, Andrea Liebross. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to this episode, I encourage you to take a screenshot and share it with them. Okay, now what about you? You've listened to the podcast, and if you now know that you're ready to upgrade your life, upgrade your business, upgrade you, then stop being only a listener and start being a liver, living that upgraded life. Head over to my website and schedule a call. Right there, on that call, we'll start changing the way you think and act so that you can have the freedom to achieve the impossible in life and business and have the resources to do it. You deserve an upgrade. Let's do it.